My name is Joshua Yance, and I'm the current director here at the Citrus County Central Landfill for the Division of Solid Waste for Citrus County. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about environmental compliance, environmental safety, and how this Phase 4A expansion that we're currently going to be showing you today about came to be, how the engineering concepts behind it, and the environmental standards, safety, compliance measures, and permitting that goes in place just to get a landfill up and running. Now here behind us is what we're looking at is leachate. This is one of the biggest environmental concerns when it comes to landfills. The primary purpose of these engineered landfills is to keep that leachate out of the groundwater and to protect our aquifer. Now we're going to go ahead and take a really detailed look into this and show you exactly how this was designed and what protections are in place.
Hi, I'm Dan Sherlock. I'm the director of the Citrus County Central Landfill here in Lecanto, Florida. We're going to talk a little bit this morning about the new cell that we have and the existing landfill. We are one of the deepest landfills in the state of Florida because our water table and aquifer is so down deep and it's so pure, and that's one of our big reasons is to keep it that way.
Behind us, we have the new Cell 4A expansion for the landfill. This expansion is the newest expansion, and it will be completed here in the next 1 to 2 months. This expansion is expected to add approximately 9 years to our existing site life, which is estimated in October 2027, which is the cell behind us. You can see back there that we have approximately 2 to 3 years left at that site. And so we did have to move on to a new expansion.
And here also at the landfill, for the residents, we're a full service landfill. We take pretty much anything you have from your house. So it includes your household garbage, hazardous waste, recycling, yard clippings, hazardous waste, tires, refrigerators, pretty much everything you have, anything you buy at the hardware store you want to get rid of, we'll take it. The landfill is centrally located in the county. It is one of the most economical things for the residents to dispose of their trash. And we pride ourselves on having good service and keeping the county clean.
Yeah, and a nice note about the landfill. So everything that's brought in through here, all the recyclables and scrap metals, appliances, oils, things like that, none of that goes into the landfill. The only thing getting buried is Class 1 waste. Your construction and demolition materials and your municipal trash, like your household waste that you put out the side of the road. Everything else is processed in some way or recycled or shipped off to different companies and contractors for recycling.
The landfill itself has been here since back in the 70s, how it started. And things have improved, the linings, everything, the way it's caught and catch, the leachate. And I think we're going to let the engineers talk a little bit about that.
Hello, hi, I'm Troy Hayes with Jones Edmonds. I'm the project manager, been the project for the design, construction, even the siting of this landfill. I'm also the geologist of record, working with the foundation, protecting the groundwater.
And I'm Carol Sawyer with Jones Edmonds. I am an engineer, and I'm the department manager, and I am the engineer of record, the geotechnical engineer of record, and work closely with Troy and the county on this expansion project.
So the landfill you see behind us, the new Phase 4 expansion, is a state-of-the-art Class 1 landfill built to the current industry standards. What you see here, the black level, is actually just the rain tarp. It's the very top layer protecting the current liners. Underneath that, we have some geotextiles that promote the leachate migration on top of it until you get to actually the first liner, which you can't actually see here. And then beneath that, you actually have a secondary liner. It's a 2-liner system. You got more geotextiles if any leachate gets through this liner to migrate this to the pump snout, and then an entirely second liner protecting the aquifer. And below all of these, you have next what's called a GCL, or a geocomposite clay layer. And this is actually an embedded fabric that has bentonite clay in it. And underneath where we're standing right now, all these layers are installed, tested, seamed, welded together to make sure that this landfill is protecting the environment.
Landfills are highly engineered. They are engineered systems, and they're highly regulated. So we spend a lot of time, from the beginning, getting soil borings, trying to determine what the foundation soils are, where the water table is. That's our first step before we do any of this. And we look at soil stability, we look at bearing capacity. There's a lot that goes into, this system where I think a lot of people just think, oh, it's just a hole in the ground. It is it is far from that. We spend a lot of time looking at the surrounding water. These systems are highly monitored. There are groundwater monitoring wells around the whole facility. The county monitors it daily. There's a lot of reporting involved. And there's a lot of work that goes into preparing the permit application that ultimately goes to DEP. That's the regulatory agency that reviews it. They ask a lot of questions. And then when they feel that the permit application is complete, there's an opportunity for the public to look at that. There's a public review period. So there's a lot of steps that go into it. And as Troy was saying, this is the separator between the waste and the groundwater. This is what protects the environment. These are highly engineered materials, high density polyethylene, fabrics, this geosynthetic liner. These are all the steps that are taken to separate the waste and the leachate from the groundwater. And they do a tremendous job. They're used all over the country, and they're the key to this system.
This particular site is great for a landfill, actually. If you look across the state of Florida, the differences that we have, you can notice at this site we're able to go very deep out here. And that's not groundwater, that's actually rainwater that's ponding in it right now. We are still not to the groundwater table at this location in Citrus County. So the aquifer is very protected. A lot of places in Florida, the landfills, we are actually designing them to extend down into the groundwater table now, have some different considerations for protecting it. But here, from the bottom of this landfill, we still have about 45, 50 feet to go before we hit groundwater. And that's because we're up on these old ancient marine terrace here in central Citrus County. It actually makes for a very ideal spot in Florida for a landfill.
Hi, I'm Ken Cheek. I'm the Director of Water Resources for the county, which means I'm in charge of the county's drinking water and wastewater facilities. Also the county engineer. I know we've talked a lot about protecting the aquifer, just a little more along those lines. We have a very high quality aquifer here, but it is what's termed an unconfined aquifer, which means that there's no geologic formation in the subsurface profile that actually would limit how much water that gets to the surface can get into the aquifer. So it's very important that we protect it because there's nothing really to stop it. Whatever goes on the ground ends up in the aquifer eventually. So Troy, I know you guys have talked quite a bit about the fact that the liner system collects leachate. Well, I'm more concerned about where it goes from here. Like was mentioned earlier, it gets to our wastewater treatment plants, but what kind of things am I looking at having to treat when it gets there?
Yeah, certainly. Well, municipal solid waste, the big things that come in it, it's got lots of salts in it. Everything we put in there has salts in it, chlorides, as well as some metals. Heavy metals are in there, as well as volatiles as well. So when the leachate is collected from here, it goes to tanks that are stored here on site where it's aerated to get some of those volatiles off, to keep it going, before it is then pumped into the county system, going through, and it's diluted with other wastewater systems, other sanitary wastewater coming in before it makes it to the wastewater plant.
Yeah, and at the wastewater plant that actually treats the leachate from this landfill, we took that into account in the design of that to deal. Really, the biggest issue for us with leachate is very, very strong in terms of its wastewater content. So it takes up a lot of the plant capacity more than necessarily domestic wastewater would. So, we have to size the plant properly to be able to handle the leachate. The processes for treatment are actually very similar to domestic wastewater, but it just takes a lot of the plant volume because the leachate is so strong. So, and once we treat it, of course, then we're creating reclaimed water, which we reuse to reduce the amount of water that we have to pump out of the aquifer for other purposes. We produce very high quality reclaimed water. I think most people know by now that we're also under a basin management action plan for our coastal springs. And so we have to meet those requirements at our wastewater treatment plants. And, taking the leachate in, we have to take that into account to make sure that we meet those standards, which we do.
Okay. So one of the things you can see in the background is the soil stockpile back there. We actually take our cover up every single day. We actually use also an alternate daily cover that we spray on the trash at the end of every day to keep down any contaminants, odors, keep the trash contained. So the next day we just come back in and bring trash right back over it. But the soil stockpile is very important to the landfill. It's very valuable, and it's used for hauling, cover the trash up every day. To kind of start with where the landfill kind of started is you kind of got a flat piece of land. This whole land here wasn't dug out prior to this expansion. You could probably see it in the background. There was some yard waste piles that we originally had here in place. And then it got into the excavation of things, which took about 2 to 3 months, I think, for excavation.
It went very quick, yeah. 2 to 3 months to dig out this hole. Essentially what it is.
Yeah. And so after the excavation, we got down to installing the actual liner system.
All the pieces, they are actually, they're laid down, they overlap, and they have a welding machine, which essentially is a weld, is a melting them together. The plastics are melted together. And then we go into a detailed CQA testing, construction quality assurance, where every so many feet of welds we do, we actually cut a piece out, we send it to an independent lab where they test it. They try to rip it apart and see if it meets certain requirements. So all the welds, everything on here is tested as they come across. The liner comes in giant rolls that they then roll down the landfill slopes, weld them together as they're coming across, and then we come right behind them doing the CQA testing.
And then right as they're designing this whole excavation, there's a sump at the very bottom, which has the leachate collection. You can actually see in the photos where it's kind of like a pit at the very bottom of the landfill, so it's a collection point for all the liquid. It gradually works its way down to that point, and that's where it gets pumped out to the leachate collection.
So we're going to be filling up. We get to the base level here. You can see where the liners tie together for the old landfill and the new one. Then we can go up 90 feet above that. That elevation at the landfill, the active one that's currently at, can go about 20 more feet till they reach the final elevation they can get to. But this landfill is designed and tied directly into that one. So as we build this one up, when we get to this level, we can then start building against that one and keep going up, so we don't lose any airspace when we keep going.
Yeah, the bottom of this landfill right now, I believe, is about 80 feet down from where we're currently standing.
Yes.
It doesn't look very deep, but when you get down there, you see trucks down there, you see how much smaller they look. It's 80 feet down.
Some things for it, you can notice if you look over here at the grass slope out there, the landfill is currently designed, we're going to start filling this side, and then when we do some modifications over there, we'll come back and line that other side or move it to hopefully get some more capacity. Additionally, we have a very large stormwater pump station over here, so all that's sitting on the grass over there will not be touching trash. That is all going to be rainwater, stormwater that'll be managed such. Anything that hits the liner or interacts with any waste that comes in goes into the bottom of the line cell here and is pumped out as leachate.
This is our Phase 4A leachate collection system. This is where the risers go down to the very bottom of the sump to pull all that leachate, all that liquid that passed through the trash out. We have four pipes. There is 2 that are the primary pipes. They lay right under that right on that primary liner, and there's actually a secondary containment in the secondary liner that's there as a backup. So this is where our main riser is. This actually goes about more than 200 feet all the way down to the very bottom to the sump of the cell. And this is where the leachate is all pumped out at the very bottom. It's pumped through a pipe by a sump pump, and it comes out here before it goes to our leachate tanks for holding. And if I can get this open here, I can show you. Well, it makes a nice echoing sound if you really want to chance into it. But just down in here, through these pipes, there's actually a pipe that goes all the way down to the very bottom. I guess you can't see it as well from there as I thought you'd be able to, but at the very bottom there's a pump, and it pumps that liquid up through this pipe, and if we ever need to pull this out for maintenance of any kind, we can pull this right out. Leachate is basically all the liquid that's passed through breaking down trash and things like that, so it has a lot of contaminants, and we don't want that working its way into the aquifer, and that's what this is intended to prevent. This is a really good system with a double liner system installed to get this leachate out and get it sent to a treatment center for treatment. So this is where the leachate actually goes. After it gets pumped out of those sumps, after it goes through the leachate collection system, it gets brought here to our storage tanks. This pipe here actually comes from some of the old cells, phase 1, 2, and 3, and the pipe to my left actually comes from phase 4A. These get pumped right into the main storage container, and this exterior wall here is actually a secondary storage, just in case there were ever any issues or major flash floods or storms. We have that secondary containment just in case anything happens. So we actually have 2 storage holding tanks, one on the north side and one on the south side. They're split in the middle. Each storage tank, it holds about 125,000 gallons of liquid. So what actually happens once the leachate makes it into the tank is it's held at about 4.5 to 5.5 feet, and it's actually aerated. And what that aeration does is it helps the chemicals work themselves to break themselves down prior to being sent over to the treatment center. This leachate is considered very contaminated, so if you push this into a treatment center, it's going to really flood their systems, and it's going to make it difficult for them to treat that much liquid that quickly. Yep. So we actually, when it's sent out, we actually send around 300 to 400,000 gallons a month over to the treatment center. And that equates somewhere between 10 to 20,000 gallons a day. Obviously, these numbers are much more skewed when we get rainy days. They fluctuate. All right. So where we're standing now is up on top of the leachate tanks. This is just above where the leachate's held. This is typically held at about 4.5 to 5.5 feet. And as you can see, it's actually being aerated by about 25 different diffusers. All right, so as you can see, there are two separate tanks. We have a north side and a south side. And the reason there's two tanks is if we ever need to work through any problems or have maintenance, we can shut one side down without halting the process. This is running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is constantly in aeration, and this is all the liquid that's being pumped out right from the bottom of the cell, right here into these holding tanks. Something like that. This is where the actual leachate gets pumped out to go over to the treatment center. As you can hear the blowers behind me, these are on. These are constantly what's helping aerate that leachate. And the pipes they follow here, they kind of connect, and then they go down through this angled pipe here right to the right, and that actually goes through a force main where it goes straight to that treatment center over at Meadowcrest. The purpose of the compactors back here is to really crush that trash, to get as much life space out of this site as we can. We can only go up so high and we can only go so wide, so we really got to take advantage of every bit of airspace. The compactors, they run over that trash at minimum 4 to 5 times in a pass, and their goal right now is about 1,500 pounds a cubic yard. To crush that down, get that compaction rate in, so we can really stuff that trash as tight as possible and keep it all to a real strict basis. When they actually do the landfill, the way they work the trash is they actually work it, you can kind of see in the background, there's a slight slope. And the reason there's that slight slope is when we go back and we actually cover it with dirt, when we cover it with soil, is that way any other rainwater that comes, it can run off the hill and not become leachate. Anything we can avoid becoming leachate is a benefit to us. Okay, so the waste at the end of the day, it actually gets covered every single day. Now, we have an ADC material called an alternate daily cover that we could spray on. It's a mixture of a fibrous material and a latex paint. We spray that on at the end of every day, and it helps keep contaminants down. It helps keep the litter from polluting anywhere. It keeps the birds and animals out of it, and it keeps the odor down. Now, after 7 days, we have to come back and we cover that with soil and or dirt and mulch. And you can see that over here on the left. We actually go back and we cover it before it's done anymore. Current landfill we're at right now is expected to last us about 2 more years. So we really got to get into that new expansion very soon to provide a little more long-term disposal for solid waste here in the county. If you look behind us, we actually have the scale house directly behind us, and that's where all of the items that are brought here to landfill are weighed in and out. They are weighed by tonnage and prorated down to the pound, and that's actually where we generate all of our revenue for the landfill.
The landfill itself, we're considered an enterprise fund, so we get very little to no taxes from the residents. We generate our own income here. We finance our own projects with our own money. This covers past projects and anything in the future that we will generate money for. And we have here also, we have Carl Hall, the Public Works Director, and Carl's going to fill you in on a whole bunch more information.
Hi, my name's Carlton Hall. I'm Citrus County Public Works Director. We're here at the Citrus County Solid Waste Landfill and give you a little bit of information on the landfill. It is a complete enterprise fund project. The landfill itself charges fees, as we see behind us at the scale. All of the garbage that comes into the landfill is weighed, and then it is paid for by the citizens or even the companies that bring the trash into the landfill. And of course, enterprise fund means that the landfill actually uses the funds that they collect to keep the landfill operating and running, as well as all the permitting that is required to have a landfill in operation. In addition, we've got several expansions that we're looking at for solid waste. Right now, we're finishing up installation of our cell 4A. 4A is a brand new spot for us to put garbage in the next 7 to 8 years. And after that, we're going to be expanding right on into another phase if we're able to do that. So as far as the expansion with cell 4A, the construction of that cell ran about $14 million. We're expecting the next cell or the next phase of expansion would run anywhere from $18 to $20 million. And that's just to actually get everything in place, to have somewhere to put the garbage, as well as to collect all of the rainwater that is leached into the bottom of that cell and then eventually pumped out of the landfill. So the most recent construction project we've had here at Solid Waste is the installation of cell 4A, which is a brand new cell for us to put the garbage. Since the landfill is an enterprise fund, all of the money collected for that expansion project, nearly $14 million, was collected ahead of time. So that project is actually paid for. The very next cell that would go in is 4B. Installation of 4B is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $18 to $20 million. And again, those funds will be collected up front before that construction project begins. We're getting ready to go to the Board of County Commissioners to look at the rates that we have for solid waste. It has been over 12 years since a rate study has been done for solid waste, and we're looking at putting the numbers together of what it's going to take to keep the landfill in operation for the next 25 years. And that's why a rate study is so important, to make sure that the actual tonnage that we're collecting and the amount of money we collect at this scale behind me can actually fund these projects for the coming future. So the landfill, in addition to being able to fund their projects and construction projects as we move forward, we also are required to save money for when the landfill is actually closed. Citrus County will be required to maintain this site for 30 years after the landfill is closed, and those funds are collected each year and saved. I just want to say how thankful I am of all the staff here at Solid Waste and the hard work that they put in each and every day to make sure we have a clean facility to bring the garbage from out the entire county. I'd also like to thank each one of you for visiting and bringing your business here to Citrus County, and we look forward.
Hi, we'd like to thank you for watching this video. Because of this team, the engineers with the utility water, this is a highly technical landfill. It protects the aquifer. It gives the citizens of the county a place to dispose of their waste for years to come. This could not be done without this entire team. Thank you very much for watching.
Beautiful.
Good job.
Awesome.